So hopefully this time I won't mix up the audio and video like I usually do. So all of you, I know a lot of you, it's a little bit different audience than we usually have, but I have a blog, which is why I'm very familiar with the people on this panel, and my blog is very different than theirs. I have a blog that's predominantly a trade blog, business to business, and that's a different profile than what we're going to have tonight. So I just wanted to start out and a little bit about what's going on and why this is important. Blogging started online in the 1990s, and it was mostly a journal for people to sort of express their personal point of views. By 2012, it was way more than a journal. The Huffington Post sold for over $300 million. So this is the future of journalism as we do it, those of us who come from an era of advertising in newspapers. Blogs are now used by companies to display their thought leadership and their expertise, and are considered a very important professional tool in order to create brand awareness. And I'm going to start with a short little PowerPoint just to introduce you to a few facts and to our panelists. Okay, so just a few facts. There are, as of July 1st of this year, there are 152 million blogs worldwide, 49% of them in the United States. 128 million people in the United States read blogs daily. A new blog is created every half second. We won't talk about the quality of the new blog, but that's what they do. 75% of internet users read blogs, and 81% of consumers trust information they get from a blog. And the reason for that is because bloggers don't have to report to anybody, so they tell the truth, more or less. And that's, at least the consumer believes that. Blogging, consumers report that blogs rank higher than Twitter for shaping their opinions and higher than Facebook for motivating their purchasing decisions. And as you can see from this graph I put up here, 31%, they're third in line after retail sites and brand sites for influencing what a person might choose to purchase. 52% of consumers say that blogs have impacted their purchasing decisions. And as I said before, it's because they believe the blogger. They believe they're being honest and sincere. And very interesting stat, blogs are heavily read in the morning hours. So you can see the graph there of what happens. Companies with over 51 blog articles, it's a month, I don't think it says it up there, have seen a 77% lift in their median monthly leads. Companies that blog have 55% more website visitors. B2C, which is business to consumer companies that blog, generate 88% more leads per month than those who do not. And B2B companies that blog generate 67% more leads per month than those who do not. Today, we're going to hear from different kinds of bloggers. I said to you, my blog, Lingerie Briefs, focuses on the industry, the intimate apparel industry. We have Cora Harrington here on the right, publisher and owner of the Lingerie Addict. Carolyn Elenowitz, publisher and owner of the Lingerie Lesbian. And Elizabeth Dale, publisher and owner of The Breast Life. The Lingerie Addict, which is Cora's blog. Cora originally came from Georgia, right? She's now settled in Seattle, Washington. Her blog, The Lingerie Addict, is 5 years old, and she has been blogging full-time for 2 years. Prior to that, she was a crisis counselor, specializing in working with victims of violence and their family members. The Lingerie Addict has over 150,000 visitors per month and has been featured on websites like Forbes, Fox News, Vogue Italia, Time, and Today, and others, which I'm not going to go into the list. The Lingerie Lesbian, Caro's blog. Caro is 23 years old. She's based in New York, and her blog is 1 year old. Currently working full-time in a PR firm doing their social media content and strategy for corporations. She will begin a fashion degree at FIT this fall. 2 weeks, right, Carol? Yeah. Her blog is focused on the personal aspects of lingerie and lingerie as a fashion item, as well as the social and cultural implications of sexuality and lingerie. The Lingerie Lesbian receives 50,000 views per month and has been featured on Yes, Jezebel, Autostraddle, and she has guest blogged for the Lingerie Addict. Sorry. The Breast Life by Elizabeth Dale. The Breast is a very different kind of blog than these other two, although they're a little different from each other too. Caro and Cora, I would say, are strong consumer. I don't want to use the word fashion, but you'll describe it. But Elizabeth's blog is a little bit more geared towards research and information about breast health. She is the author and breast expert. She lives in Los Angeles. She's been active in this industry since she published the book Boobs, A Guide to Your Girls in 2007. She is featured columnist on Breast Briefs, which is one of the columns on my blog. And subsequently, in the last couple of months, it has been picked up by the Huffington Post. Her Breast Life blog is syndicated by realself.com. It's an online cosmetic surgery community. Elizabeth covers a range of topics, including lingerie, breastfeeding products, breast plastic surgery, and health and body image issues. Elizabeth's site also has the Breast Life store, which is an e-commerce portion of her site. The other two sites really don't have that. Women can stop there to shop for lingerie and breast support, including breastfeeding products, books and DVDs, and items that have received positive reviews and are identified by the Breast Life seal of approval. So that's that. Blogging is a free world. I call it the free journalistic world. And we're going to start now, and I'm going to not mess this up. What? Did I do it? No. Okay, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? I did it. I only practiced that for like an hour and a half before you all came. Okay. 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 So I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and we'll start with Cora. Okay. I'd like to know what inspired you to start the blog, and where did the name come from? How did you put it together?
Well, I was dating, I'm sorry, I'm going to be a little congested today. I have a cold. I was dating a guy 5 years ago, and I wanted to get something nice to wear, but I was having a hard time figuring out how to shop for it. There was no one really writing reviews of things or writing shopping guides for how to buy lingerie or kind of giving advice for what was worth the money or what brands to try. So I just started writing reviews of things that I was buying for myself, and blog traffic really just picked up organically from there. I started off as Stockings Addict, so there might be some people who knew me from way back then. And then after about a year or two, I realized that there was a lot more I was interested in, and so I rebranded as the Lingerie Addict, and that's what I've been for the last 3 years.
And Carol, I'm sure everybody wants to know how the Lingerie Lesbian started.
Well, I've originally started my blog on Tumblr, where I did no writing. I just reblogged and shared photos of lingerie, specifically with a directional, fashion-forward perspective in mind. And I really decided to only feature women in any of the photos that I put on my blog. There were no man and women couples or anything like that. And the name partially came from, I was inspired by the Lingerie Addict, and I thought her site was great, and I thought that lingerie was great, but too often there were these articles that said how to buy lingerie for your man. And every time I read that, I was just like, next page. You know, it was just, I was glad that people were writing stuff to help people in that situation, but it never ever applied to me. And no one seemed to be thinking about that or considering that or writing about that anywhere.
Okay, and Elizabeth? Yours is very different.
Yes, mine's very different. I started my blog really to support my book when I came up with my idea for my book, Boobs, A Guide to Your Girls, which I pitched it to an agent at a book conference, and then they sold it to a publisher before I even wrote it. So I started out thinking, oh, I need to be online with this. So I was actually branded as booksonboobs.com many, many years ago. And mostly I picked that name because I didn't want to have anything with boobs at the beginning of it, because everybody would think it was a porn site, and then their computer would be overcome with all sorts of porn things. So, but I rebranded a couple years ago to about a year and a half ago, and then relaunched my site at the end of January to thebreastlife.com, because it really spans more than just, it's more than just women's breasts for me. It's how their breasts fit into their life and at every stage of their life. So I do everything from, development to how to buy your daughter her first bra, all the way through, breastfeeding, through plastic surgery, and up through menopause and beyond.
Okay. Cora, can you kind of explain what your main mission is? I know you have a lot of things going on the site, but can you kind of zero in on the mission of the Lingerie Addict?
The Lingerie Addict is really about connecting women with the lingerie that's the best fit for their life. Our mission is about showing women that you can treat lingerie just like it's any other aspect of fashion, like shoes or handbags or beauty or anything else. And that lingerie is for every woman, no matter her age or her size, her ethnicity, her income, that there's something out there which is perfect for you.
Okay, Carol, and go a little closer to the, yeah, good.
The purpose of my site is, it really starts out as a personal blog coming from me, and that's why the name, the Lingerie Lesbian. It's from my perspective, and I really want to write about how lingerie is beautiful and amazing, and there's so much cool stuff going on, and that it can be for everyone, and that there's so much interesting stuff going on, and so many ways that you can look at lingerie and the way that it fits into your life, and the way that inspiration and fashion and bras and construction all fit together.
And my tagline is changing the world one boob at a time. So my mission really is to show women that there's all sorts of things for them at whatever age they are, that they don't have to look at one young model and think that's it, I have to have that particular size of breasts and that's the kind of bra I have to wear and those are my limitations, but really making it wide open and also letting women know, the word change is very important to me because these are like moving targets on our chest and they're going to change our whole lives. So getting women to really embrace those changes as well and being able to celebrate that no matter their age.
Okay, your blogs all started with a simple point of view. You just stated what it was, but evolution has evolved your profile somewhat, and each of your blogs have additional intelligence. I think that's why I specifically asked the three of you to help us with this, that really enhance your platform. So Cora, for example, has weekly sales. Caro alternates topics. One of the ones I love, close to my heart, is the art of lingerie. And Elizabeth, you have an e-commerce site. Mm-hmm. So could you each kind of say how that happened? Because I've been reading you for a while and things keep getting added and changed. You've writers, that kind of thing. So can you kind of explain what you've added, why you've added it, and what it's done, how it's worked out, good and bad?
I started adding a weekly sales post feature every Saturday because there was another lingerie blog that used to do weekly sales roundups, the Lingerie Post. Some of you may know that name. And they've gone defunct recently, so I just picked that up because that was something a lot of my readers were looking for. They wanted to get something or try something, but they couldn't get it full price, and they wanted to know when the sales were happening. So I started doing the weekly sales post maybe a year and a half ago, and now it's one of our most popular posts of the week. I've also brought in some other features like my Diversity is More Than a Bra Size series, which tries to illustrate other perspectives in the lingerie industry. That was a series that Cora guest posted for when she wrote about what it's like to be a lesbian in the lingerie industry. And I'm just always looking for ways to make the site both more useful to my readers, mm-hmm. And also to show other and more diverse perspectives.
Okay. And I mean, I love that whole art thing, but talk a little bit about the different columns you have and how you do it.
Well, Originally, I just had two main areas that I did. I did reviews of products that I had tried and what I thought of them, and then I did more editorial posts where I talked about either it would be a selection of lingerie in a certain theme, or it would be my thoughts. I did a post about how lingerie is perfect for introverts who like to stay home all the time, because I was, I thought that, and I expanded because I realized that there were certain other things that no one else was really doing and that really interested me. So I started the Art of Lingerie column where I talk about lingerie that fits with different artists. I've done Rubens, I did Frida Kahlo for one, and I've also done a series about around the world in lingerie where I feature lingerie from different countries, and especially from countries where you don't really hear about the lingerie so much. I did one about Asian lingerie, which was really popular, and identified some of the key shapes that were really popular that we don't really get here. And I did one about African lingerie, which is an extremely small industry, but is really interesting because they do stuff that no one else does. Those are my two main ones that people really love.
Elizabeth?
My blog has sort of served as a resource in providing people with some basics. My reader is more like, has no idea that there's even a lingerie trade show twice a year, and that there's all of these possibilities out there. So my main blog, I try to focus on giving people information and resources, whether it is, at any stage of life. My store is a little bit different because it started out just featuring books and DVDs in various categories, be it, body issue, pregnancy, breast cancer, breast health. And then I decided that women really kept asking me, I want to see things. I want to see like these great maternity bras that you're talking about. So what I've done is I've tried to curate just a few pieces in each category so women can get a broad idea of what's available out there in different brands, in different styles, in different sizes, no matter their shape or stage of life. So that's where that's come from. And I also have memoirs on my site, which are women's own stories. And finally, I've started podcasts because I've been using a hashtag on Twitter of boobs in the news so that I can talk about current events. And that's basically what I'm doing when I'm on Huffington Post and on the lingerie. On your site, I've also been doing sort of current events, what's in the news about breasts, what people are saying, whether it's information that's correct or whether it's information that is questionable, whether it's a study or something else. So,
Okay, and let's talk a little bit about social media and the critical interweaving of social media. I mean, this is a very strong form of social media, but I've learned, I can't believe I've learned, the critical, how important it is to connect social media, all levels of social media, to your blog, and why it's important in this world. So why don't we start with Cora and just keep going, because you guys are real experts, and Elizabeth and I are a little bit like learning.
Social media has been really critical to the growth of my blog. Most of my referring traffic comes from my social platforms now. Across about 5 or 6 platforms, I have nearly 100,000 social media followers. So that has a lot to do in terms of like my daily traffic, my visitors, how people discover my blog, how it gets referred out to other people. Because when I post, an article on Facebook to my 40,000 fans, I get a lot of traffic. I post an article, on Tumblr to my 18,000 followers, it's going to get a lot of traffic.
Right.
So it's been really critical to growing my blog and to increasing my reach. I also think of social media as a place to start conversations or to share items which may not be a good fit for the main blog, or to feature brands or designers or information that may not appear on the blog. So I mean, it's absolutely, I think of all my social platforms as completely integrated with, and I'm sorry, I keep hearing like a whispering, and necessary to what happens on my main site, the Lingerie Addict.
Okay, and how about you, Carol?
Well, the way I view social media is that you're bringing the conversation to your audience. That's where people are. People aren't necessarily on your blog, but they're on Twitter all day. They're on Facebook to see their friends. They're on Pinterest pinning for their wedding board. They're on Tumblr doing whatever people do on Tumblr, which is all sorts of things. And if you want to get your voice out there and you want to talk to people, yes, your blog is great, but and SEO is great, but if people happen upon your blog, that's where they'll find it. But it's really, but social media is where you can get there and talk to people you wouldn't otherwise talk to. I mean, I only recently met Cora, but we've been talking on Twitter for the longest time, and that's how I wrote a post on her blog, and that's how we connected. And I've met so many great designers and brands and other bloggers and just my readers by being on social media and by talking to people where they know how to have a conversation.
And Elizabeth, your perspective is closer to mine, but
Oh, sorry. I think you can't really do a blog without social media. You'll never be found. Nobody will know who you are. It's also a great place to reestablish your brand for whatever your niche is. Like on Twitter for me, I think that, the things that I kind of post on Twitter, people come to my Twitter feed to see, oh, what's the news? What's the boob news happening? What is she saying about this? In addition to the conversations that I'm having with other people. But it's integral. I mean, I get, half of my traffic comes from Facebook and Twitter. And a lot of the really great conversations and the collaborations and the information I learn comes from being on the social media platform. So I think it's very, very important. It's time consuming, but it's integral part of my brand.
And I just want to emphasize the time-consuming aspect, because it is. Can you give a little bit of an idea of what kind of time it takes to do it right, Cora? In your opinion?
Oh, I spend several hours per day on all my social platforms. I have alerts set up to keep me so that I can monitor when my brand is being mentioned or when someone says something about my brand. I do regular searches on Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, Pinterest for mentions of my brand. I think if you're going to do social media right, you should be investing several hours per day in it, because otherwise you're just not going to get the full use out of it.
You guys said that some of you review products on your site. What determines how do you decide what you're going to review, and what inspires you to review something? What annoys you about reviewing? I mean, and it's a loaded question, but maybe Caro, you want to start?
Sure. Most of the time I review products that I've purchased myself, usually ones that I've been really, really happy with. Because if a product lets me down and is the worst thing I've ever tried, I want to write about that. But if something's just mediocre, I really don't feel compelled to talk about it because I don't really have anything to say. But when I buy something that I think is really amazing and that people should know about it, and that it has all these details that you can't see if you just go to a product shot on a site, or if you can't appreciate it until it's right there in front of you and you hear about what it feels when you wear it, then I really want to talk about it. And sometimes people send me things to review that I write about, and most of the time I will say I don't want to review something if it's something that if they tell me what it is and I'm like, that doesn't work for me, that's not something I'm interested in, because my blog is really about my style and what I like, and if I don't want to just review something because someone sent it to me, I want to review it because there's a possibility that I'm going to find something that's really amazing and that I want to share with my readers.
Cora, I think you have a little bit of a different point of view on that.
I write reviews to give more information to my readers, and I think that's something that we all share when we do reviews.
Yeah.
But we'll review any product that a brand sends us. We do have a review policy. Our reviews are editorial content. They're not advertising. So we really emphasize to brands that when you're sending us an item for a review, you haven't purchased a positive blog post. If we love it, and we'll write about it and we'll say, oh, we love it. And if we have a problem with it and we don't like it, we'll also say why we don't like it. We're not going to shred a brand and be like, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever, for no reason.
But it goes back to what I said about people believe bloggers because they're honest. They say what they want.
We're going to say what we like and what we don't like on my site. I have 6 columnists, so we all share, the review responsibility. Things that aren't a good fit for me, very often they're a good fit for one of my other writers, and vice versa.
Right.
Everything that we review, we wear it several times, we wash it, we wear it again, so that we can really give my readers kind of like the best impression of what they can expect when they buy a product, because to me, our first responsibility is always to our readers and to be honest with them about what they can expect from a review from us.
Thank you. Elizabeth, you do a lot of, did you want to comment on that?
I can also say that what irritates me about reviewing products, I get really irritated when people send me something and the next week they call and ask me why I haven't blogged about it. And I mean, most of us all have an editorial calendar where we have things that we're writing about for 3 or 4 weeks in advance, and that doesn't give you enough time, especially when it's a lingerie item, to even wear it, try it, wash it, put it on again. And so I get a little irritated with that there's this immediate, you must review it. And I personally don't do negative reviews because I have to be enthusiastic. I have to feel like it's an exciting new, innovation or new style for my readers to really write about it. That's just my personal, I don't have 6 columnists.
So, but we've had this conversation about the frustration when people approach you and how they approach you. Could we talk a little bit about that? I mean, what's comfortable for you and what makes you say, I don't want to deal with that brand or something? You know what I'm asking you? Cora, you can start.
Well, I mean, I feel similar to Elizabeth. If a brand sends me a product and then like the very next week they're saying, well, where's our review? You haven't given us enough time to probably to even get in the mail yet, but also to try it and to wash it and to wear it, because we don't just, our reviews aren't just press releases. They're not just things where we say, oh, we have this thing and it's awesome and it's amazing and that's it. We really say, here's how it fit, here's how it fit us, here's what happened after we washed it, here's what happened when we wore it again. And for us to do those kind of thorough reviews, the kind of reviews that our readers expect from us, they take time. I would also say that brands should be careful when they're sending out sizes for reviews. Very often brands will send out they'll send out basically a sample size. Well, none of my writers, including myself, are sample size. So if you send us like, a size small and you're wondering where your review is, well, nobody on my team can wear a size small. So you really want to verify that you're sending out the right sizes to the right address before you give out review samples. And then it's totally okay, to follow up in comments with readers, because my readers are very active, very engaged with my site. They'll post their own reviews of things that they've tried in the comments of the blog. And it's okay as a brand to say, oh, hey, thanks for the feedback. That's interesting. We'll take that under advisement. But don't attack a review, even if it says something that you would prefer it didn't say, because that will never look good for your brand. If you come into the comments section and you start attacking readers for their opinion, or you start attacking the writer for their opinion, your brand never looks good at the end of it.
One of the things that I don't struggle with it, I have a very strong point of view about it, but we've had this kind of email dialogue about, is I perceive my own site as a brand in itself, and I stick to a certain core part of the market. And there are just things that don't work for how I define my brand. And people don't understand why I won't why I don't choose to write a story about it. Can we talk a little bit about that? Because you get it's a huge market and it's a huge industry and you can't cover everything, and you probably have a very strong focus on what's important to your mission. Do you understand the question I'm asking you? Caro, can you address that?
Yeah, I feel like of this panel, I have one of the most specific points of view, because you were really talking about breast comfort and all that, and across different styles and things like that. And Cora, you have so many different people who are writing for you, and really it's just me on my blog. And I don't want to write about things that I don't like, because if I'm gonna write about it, I just want to be in love with it and want to think it's amazing. And often a brand will send me something like a lookbook or photos or something and say, print this on your site. And usually what happens is I write back and I say, thank you so much. I'm so glad you chose to share this with me. This is just not right for me and my readership. But I want to stay on their list. I want to hear what they're doing next, but I want to make sure that everything goes with my vision and my taste, because that's why they come to me. They don't come to me to be the end-all and be-all of all lingerie information, because that's never going to be what my site's about. My site is going to be about the things that interest me and the things that make me love lingerie. So that's why I'm going to write about certain topics or print certain photos or review certain items.
Elizabeth, do you have a point of view on that?
Well, I have so many. I'll have people send me post-surgical bras that are brand new on the market, or, creams, nipple creams for breastfeeding mothers, and I have to find then someone, because I'm not nursing. I have to find someone. It'll take some time for me to find someone to try that out. And I've had that with maternity bras a lot. It's like I'm lining up people that I know that are going to be able to review a product and be able to know what a good fit is, and that I've worked with before. And usually the people that help me review products are people that I have fitted, so I know that they're in the right bra size in the first place. So it can be very difficult. It can take weeks sometimes to get a review done. And, I won't do anything until I have the product. I won't do anything with just, a lookbook or, hey, look I have this new line of lingerie coming out. I might tweet about it. I might, do some other like 1 or 2 lines on it, but I'm not going to review anything unless I've had it in my hands and felt it and seen it and then talk to somebody who's worn it for a while.
To just sum up what I think you're saying, based on the years I worked with different stores. If you think about stores, if you think about retailers, they all have a certain customer that they're focused on. And I think one of the misconceptions of readers of blogs that don't understand blogging is blogs are the same way. They have an audience that they're speaking to, and the good ones speak to a specific audience. They don't try to speak to 20 different audiences, because you can't do all of it. You can't be good at what you do if you're not focused. In that light, I wanted to ask Elizabeth, you do a lot of research on health issues, and how do you do it? Where do you go to get it? I mean, it's very informative. A lot of people come to you for expertise.
Yeah.
Where's the core?
Well, it started with my book when I had to interview a lot of experts in different, areas, whether it was breastfeeding or breast health, and I've sort of followed the best of the best. I, like Cora, have alerts on certain words in the media, so I can, and there are certain websites that I trust implicitly in what they say in their research and what they reviewed. So if a story comes out, and I hate to use breastfeeding again, but all the time you're hearing, breast is best, and a new study says, it'll boost your baby's brain and it stops ADHD, and they'll become rich millionaires at some point because you breastfed. And a lot of those studies aren't very well researched, and they're, I can go to the experts that I know and say, okay, give me your critique on this, or I can go to a website that does that. So I spend a lot of my time, I would probably say I spend at least a couple hours a day reviewing news and research, because there's so much going on, and especially so much has changed, not only in the lingerie industry. To me, a lot has changed in the last 5 years. A lot has changed in plastic surgery. A lot has changed in breast health. A lot of changes have occurred in breastfeeding and are going to occur even more so with Obamacare. So there's just a lot to keep on top of all the time. But yeah, I actually love that part of it. I love knowing what the next thing is and what people think about it. So it's interesting to me.
So in the same vein, a fashion blogger, or I don't want to call you fashion bloggers, but you do cover fashion. Where do you get your information from, and why do you use specific input over other? I mean, there's input you take when I'm not talking about a review now. I'm talking about some of your articles about, especially you, Cora. You have a lot of articles about what's happening in the fashion in the lingerie fashion world. What makes your editorial decisions, and how do you understand what I'm asking you? Okay.
Right. I use a lot of lookbooks from brands that are doing like new and exciting things. I'll use images directly from their lookbooks to post to the site, because a lot of my readers are wanting to see what's new and fashion forward in lingerie. Mm-hmm. I have personally like a passion for featuring indie designers. Mm-hmm. So I go out and look for independent designers on Etsy, on Twitter, on Tumblr, what have you, so that I can make sure they're getting just as much press time as some of the larger brands, because my readers are also very interested in knowing about independent brands. And then a lot of my feature articles, like say my trend roundups or my fashion roundups, are based on questions that I get from my readers. Maybe they want to know about lace bralettes or fashion forward full bust bras or plus size chemises or what have you. And that kind of feedback tells me what kind of editorial articles I should put together for my readers.
Okay, Carol.
A lot of my editorial content comes from things that I see that annoy me and that I feel deeply compelled to write about or personal experiences that I've had. Or some of them are good personal experiences, some of them are really bad personal experiences. And I just, sometimes, because my blog is called The Lingerie Lesbian, and because I'm talking about things that some people find uncomfortable, I talk about diversity, I talk about representation, I talk about cultural appropriation. I don't want to avoid these topics because they're difficult or because they require a certain level of knowledge or because, some people might not feel comfortable talking about them. I want to talk about them. I want to say, this is not okay. What you're doing is wrong. It's exploitative. And sometimes I say, this person's doing it right. They're doing a great job. They're making sure that they're listening to people's voices and they're, keeping consistent to their vision. And a lot of the time, I want to write these posts because something happens to me or because I read something that I just think is so wrong and so stupid that I have to write an article about it.
And did you want to comment?
No.
Okay.
She said it for me.
Well, I'm going to throw something in there that we talked about earlier today, without mentioning the manufacturer. We got into a conversation, especially you guys, because you're from that generation, about how exploitive you thought there's a major manufacturer in intimate apparel who has an ad out there that these two find very offensive. And I find I'm learning, you can always learn, even if you're don't have a memory left. I'm learning that there's the classic advertising, I'm not saying all print advertising, but the classic print advertising can seem very outdated when it feels like they're grasping, they don't really understand this generation or what's going on out there. They're grasping at an idea, but they really haven't got a handle on it. Where you guys are getting input every single day from the people who are looking at your site and forming those opinions based on it. How do you handle? Do you advertise? I think there's do you use affiliates? How do you generate? Without saying, do you try to generate money off of it? Is it a?
Duh.
I know. I feel the same way.
I'm not a non-for-profit.
But a lot of it is, we had this conversation, you have to do it from your heart first. So can you talk a little bit about that, Cora? Do you understand? Again, I'm asking you if you understand my question.
I've been blogging full-time for the last 2 years, so the
Right.
Lingerie Addict is my full-time job.
Right.
And I get my revenue from advertising sales, like banner ads and sponsored newsletters and the like, from affiliate sales, where I receive a commission from a sale if I direct my readers to a certain brand. And then also from social media consulting. I work with a lot of brands, especially indie brands, on developing their social media strategy, on developing their digital marketing strategy, blogs, that sort of thing. So those are my 3 primary sources of revenue.
Okay.
For me, the decision to make sure that I'm always making money in a way that aligns kind of with the vision and mission of the Lingerie Addict is easy, because if I steer too far away from that vision and mission, my readers are going to leave. And that means no more advertisers, and no more affiliate sales, and no more consulting clients. So, there is a balance. You want to make sure that your site never becomes, too advertising heavy, and that you don't, as a blogger, start making your voice beholden to advertisers.
Right.
For example, I'm very clear with my advertisers that there is a division between editorial and advertising content. Taking out an ad on the Lingerie Addict, for example, doesn't mean that you're going to get 6 blog posts about how awesome you are the next week. There's a very strict divide there.
Right, I agree.
And I think just being upfront and honest and transparent with everyone, not just the brands you work with, but also your readers, is the best way to be when it comes to handling that.
And Caro, do you?
My blog is currently not producing any money whatsoever. I am planning on setting up advertising. I had a few technical reasons why that was not possible, and I have just set up affiliate links, so I have currently made $3.50 from affiliate sales, and that's,
It's a start.
I'm a little bit behind in anything.
That's okay. It's 1 year old. Okay, and
I too have affiliate links in my store. Also, I'm switching over to selling banner ads now from having just affiliate ads because that's a waste of my time, free advertising. But I also have income from speaking engagements and books and other writing sales that I do. So that's...
But, you know, it's true because I have a similar experience. It was just a sidekick thing and it turned into following that philosophy. And I basically don't believe in affiliate sales, even though people try to do it. Everybody has their own mission. But the bottom line is blogging is helping you direct your life and your revenue.
And we all blog at different rates. I mean, we don't all blog the same amount every week.
Right.
Which I think also makes a big difference in what we have on our websites.
Right, right. I'm curious to your opinion about the difference between a blog and a trade journal. Do you have one? Because you want to, do you have anything?
Yeah, I think of blogs as being for consumers, and I think of trade journals as being for the industry.
Okay.
For me, I'm not really interested in like publishing press releases or in, you know, saying who was seen on what celebrity because my readers don't care about that, and I don't really care about that either.
Well, I don't think I think it's a big misconception that people care about what celebrities are wearing. But anyway.
I think that the big difference is that trade journals are written for people within the industry to give them industry news, whereas when it comes to a blog, you're writing for other consumers and customers just like yourself, and you're writing about topics that interest you, even if they're not necessarily topics that are interesting or relevant to like the larger mainstream lingerie industry.
Okay. And do you have a point of view, either of you, on that? Oh, yes, no?
No, same
Okay.
as hers.
Okay. I think pretty much the only question I really wanted to ask before we open it up to the floor is, where do you each see the future of blogging going? Based on those statistics I gave you in the beginning of there was nothing in the early 90s, and now the Huffington Post is selling for $300 million. So where do you each see? Do you have a perspective yet, or you have thought about it? The future of blogging?
Well, I think the future of lingerie blogging in particular, I mean, I think the peak of lingerie blogging is still to come. When I first started, there were maybe 5 lingerie blogs. And of those 5, there's maybe only 2 that are still writing, and I'm one of them. And now we have like 40 lingerie blogs, and and now it's a regular thing for bloggers to go to Curve and to go to Lingerie Collective and to go to press events. And that wasn't the case when I first started coming to New York for the trade shows. So I think it's exciting because blogging is becoming, I think, more mainstream within the lingerie industry, but lingerie in itself is also becoming more mainstream within our society in general. Like we're seeing just more fashion bloggers in general feature lingerie and talk about lingerie and go to these press events. So I really think, whereas fashion and beauty blogging have been big for a while now, I think that the explosion of lingerie blogging in terms of the interest people have in it and in terms of how much it takes off, I think that's still yet to come.
And Carol, do you have a point of view?
I think that there's also still a lot of room for brands to expand into blogging and to expand into social media. I know there's something out there, but I think it's just such a rich area. I was working for big corporations doing social media, but there's just so much room for getting out there, sharing your story, realizing that you have so much to say about your product and your story and why your product is worth buying. And I think that people aren't realizing the potential that they have, and that people listen. Even if it's a corporate blog, even if it's an independent blog, if it's a corporate blog, people are listening. And if you tell your story right, then people are going to pay attention.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. And Elizabeth?
I think there's always room for a new voice in blogging, and I think the voice is the important part. I think the reason, both of these bloggers have done so well is because they do have a really unique voice that is theirs alone. So, you can have another 10 lingerie bloggers, but what are they really talking about? What's their voice like? What's their opinion? What's their perspective? So I think the more authentic and genuine the writing and the blogger, I think there's always going to be room, and it's just going to continue to grow.
I thank you very much. I would like to open the floor because I'm wondering if people might have questions for them. So, does anybody have any questions?
I have a question about one of your statistics. You said 128 million Americans
Read blogs.
read blogs. I'd like to know if you have numbers on how many they read, and how long they're on that blog on a daily basis.
I don't have them here, but most of my information comes from Technorati. And I think Technorati, which is like Sorry. I don't have them with me here. What? Okay, the question was, I had mentioned that 128,000 Americans read blogs. Million, excuse me. And you wanted to know if I had information on how long they stay on a blog. And what was the other part?
You said they 128 million Americans read blogs on a daily basis.
Yeah.
How many blogs do those 128 million read, and how long are they?
Well, it differs, and if you don't want to trust me remembering anything, but if I remember correctly, it was about an average of 10 a day. But where I got a great deal of this information was research I did on Technorati, which is a great site for blogging to learn about statistics, and I would urge you to go there rather than to trust my memory.
Would you share that PowerPoint with the UFC members?
Absolutely. I mean, I have other facts too, just not, I didn't want to overburden the...
I think it's important because this is a room full of brands, and brands are trying to figure out how to build that relationship between bloggers that maintains their authenticity and the brand's authenticity. Because everyone realizes that the consumer can smell fake within 10 miles. And I think we're all talking about the same thing.
We are, and I know from my blog, which was 100% a B2B blog when I started it, but as it's expanded into social media, it's beginning to evolve into, it's still dominant on B2B, but it's very, very, very important that when I talk about something, I talk about it from my expertise in the industry and try to stay very on point. And unlike these guys, I won't talk about anything negative. If I don't like it, I don't talk about it. If I like it, I talk about it. And that's, but there's more, I get a lot of I don't know about you, but I get a lot of people sending me emails asking me, where do I get this? What's an alternative here? I live here. Do they sell this there? It's amazing what's out there. So, but blogging to me, and I did not know this when I started. I did not start with the knowledge they started with. Is probably the most important thing you can do on social media. You need the rest of it to push it through, but it's probably the most important thing a brand can do is to be affiliated with a blog, one way or another. Do you guys agree with me on that?
I think it's important for every brand to carve out kind of their own social space. I mean,
Yeah.
blogging is the original social media, and a blog is really, like you were saying, the place where you can tell the story of your brand and explain to customers why you matter and why they should buy from you.
But I would go on that site because it's got a... do that. Okay. Anybody else? Yeah, go ahead.
Do you make a good living?
I don't know.
What did you say?
Did you make a good living? Do you make a good living?
I don't know what a good living is. I like my life.
No, I talk financially.
I mean, I'm happy. I do what I want when I want to do it. That's a good living to me.
Yeah.
But do you make more than 100,000 a year?
Absolutely not.
Like, what?
No.
Do you make more than 100,000 a year?
That's such a weird question. Sorry.
No. They're not,
Is there a living in blogging? That's my question.
Is there a living I will tell you that in the statistics I read, it's not it has to be associated with something else. It's different for everybody. I think it's not just blogging. It's like what Cora said. It's blogging. It's consulting. It's a group effort situation.
Right.
It's not.
Well, and when your blog gets to be, like, for example, I mean, my blog is part of an LLC. I'm sorry, my blog's part of an LLC. So all the money that comes to my blog isn't my money; it's my company's money. So, like, I think just as you get bigger, it's also harder to kind of pull apart all that stuff too.
Yeah,
So.
and it's not, it's a piece of what you do. It's, if you're doing it right, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, and she already made $3. Roz?
After my first
Roz?
It seems to me that a lot of what these ladies do on these two or three are very subjective if they like it, if they feel it's right to them. When you're talking about brands, and to a large extent, the large brands are what runs the engine for this industry. It cannot be as subjective as that. How would you recommend a large brand to be part of a blog?
I think to me, it's all subjective. It seems almost like an arbitrary distinction. I mean, if you like a brand, you're liking a brand in and of itself is a subjective thing. And in my part, when my readers come to my site, they're coming to hear my opinion. They're not coming for like an objective scientific study on bra fit. Like they're coming to see, what does Cora like? What is she buying? What is she wearing?
Cora is a 34BC, she's not a 40B or a 40EE.
Right.
So you're giving an opinion on your side.
Yes,
That's right,
She has 6
exactly.
writers on her blog.
And I have writers in other sizes. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
And
yeah.
we're very clear that we're giving our opinion. We're not speaking like on behalf of anyone else other than ourselves.
It's probably the difference between what I do and what they do, because I'm coming from a retail point of view, because my site is what I would, in my brain, is if I had a lingerie store, this is what I would carry because this is the knowledge I have about that product and why. But it's still my voice. That's the voice I chose to use. They each have a voice, and they have followers who are interested in that voice.
Right.
Did I say that right, guys?
right.
I
And
mean-
I would never write that a brand's product was just plain bad. Well, I probably wouldn't write that unless it like gave me a skin disease or something like that.
Yeah.
But under most circumstances, I would never say this product is terrible, because I can never say that. There's so many different people and so many different ways that a product, there are different price points. You're never going to get something in a $10 product that you would get in a $1,000 product. That's just ridiculous. And I think that all of us just decide to focus on what makes us happy. And if I think that something is making false promises, then I will write that this did not live up to my expectations. This promised this, and it produced this, and I wouldn't trust what they say. And that has happened to me with a retailer that I wrote about, where I thought that what they said about what they did was just incorrect. That what they were saying about who they were and what they represented was wrong, and that any woman who shopped with them would be getting false information. And that was what felt wrong to me. I don't think that any product is just a bad product.
How big of an impact would you say that your paid advertisers and affiliates have on your editorial content? I know you said obviously just because they're creating ads doesn't mean that you'll have a number of reviews, but when you're reviewing product, how much of a part does that play in what you're keeping in mind and what you're including in your posts?
I don't review products from advertisers. They go to my columnists.
I can answer that because I have a lot of advertisers on my blog. It's anything that I personally write has absolutely nothing to do with advertising. It has absolutely nothing to do with it. It's a personal statement based on something in my life and what I see it based on the mission of my blog. I will tell you this, we're pretty careful about who advertises on our site. We have a mission. And I hope that my partners, we don't even think of them as advertisers, we think of them as partners. I hope that I have partners whose product I believe in. So do I write about them? Probably. But I have a rule about how many times a year I'll even if I would. I have advertisers who I could write about every week of the year for how much I really respect their product, and I don't do it because I don't want that. So I don't think bloggers write for advertising. I think that's something advertisers do because they like the mission of the site or the statement that they're making. I could be wrong, but that's what I think.
And on my store, for instance, I have non-affiliate products all over the place that I get nothing from if somebody clicks through, just because I really believe in that product and they're not big enough to be a part of any affiliate group. So, for me, it's like I really want to give the consumer, and I have tons of books and DVDs on my site through Amazon, and that affiliate relationship is like, I don't know, half a percentage point or something. I mean, I'm never going to make any money off of any of the click-throughs on that, but I think it's very important for my reader to have those resources to be able to know these are bra fit books, these are pregnancy and maternity books, so there's a higher, level of what I want to provide my reader as well. It's not about, I'm only going to, deal with the product only if I get a piece of it.
Exactly. I mean, the vast majority of my editorial content has nothing to do with ads or affiliates. Because it all comes down to what's going to be, what kind of information do my readers most need.
So we're circling back to the same thing I said in the beginning. I think the blogs that are growing the fastest, and some of the ones up here, these ones up here are, in the industry, are the ones that have a profile of integrity. Their readers believe that they're telling the truth from their perspective, whatever that might be. And the ones that don't do that fall by the wayside. And Joel?
Did you have a target leadership you were after when you began, and how was it evolved? Is it the same person you thought you were going to reach, or is it different?
My readership is a lot more broad than I thought it was going to be. I started out and I mostly talked about products that were available in core sizes, so 32 to 38, A through D, because I fit into that size range of small to large, but I found that many of my readers are really interested in products that are plus size or that are full bust or that are particularly petite. So I make sure that I address all of those things when I'm, talking about products, or if I'm doing a list or some sort of roundup, because I know that there's a lot broader of an audience than I originally anticipated. I mean, I thought it was going to be like 50 people, so I really want to make sure that people who come to my site will find something for them, even if, they may not be identical to me.
How much physical market coverage do you do?
What do you mean by physical market?
Are you out in the market with the trade shows?
Yes.
Yeah, we're at the trade shows.
Yeah.
That's why I'm in town right now, actually. I live in Seattle, so I came into town for Curve and Lingerie Collective and all that.
And I love New York, but I live in LA.
Okay, I think this is mostly for Elizabeth, but somebody might say that double mastectomies might become more common because women are getting them because of the breast cancer gene.
Yeah.
So, do you feel like that's a controversial issue that you would discuss?
She did.
Oh, I have many, many, many times. Yeah.
She did it even on my site.
Right, yeah. It's such a small percentage. The breast, now they're calling it the Angelina Jolie gene, but it's, 5% or less. And I do think that there's more prophylactic mastectomies. What I find interesting is what's happened now are the women who are getting prophylactic mastectomies are often starting new businesses. So there's a woman who has started a wonderful swimsuit line for women who've had double mastectomies because she had the gene, the BRCA gene in her family. And numerous women are now starting new lingerie brands. I will say that there is a big empty hole for women who've had who have not had any breast reconstruction. We have to remember that the average woman who's had a mastectomy is 61 years old, who's had breast cancer. So it's not this young woman. Yes, these women who are having prophylactic mastectomies are much younger, but older women have a very, very hard time finding beautiful bras that fit forms in them. And unfortunately, under Medicare, Medicare won't pay for a custom-made prosthetic for a woman. I'm not talking about a form that you can buy and put into a bra with a pocket. I'm talking about a custom-made prosthetic that fits her particular site scar so that she can go back to wearing her previous bras that she had in her drawer without having to buy a new mastectomy, post-mastectomy bra. So there's a lot of changes happening, but I see it in innovative design by some women who are coming up with these post-surgical bras with new swimwear and with like sexy lingerie for women who've had mastectomies.
So that's something more that you would post those.
Oh yeah, I talk about that all the time. My mother's a breast cancer survivor as well, and she's 94.
Anybody else? That's okay.
I'm going to reverse the topic. How many readers, or do you have an idea how many readers are coming to your site to not only find new brands, but look to your guidance to vet existing brands?
I would say that most people who come to my site are not looking for new brands because they don't know the brands that already exist. I mean, some are expecting new, but to most of my readers, what is new is quite old because I find that the knowledge of what's going on among people my age, among the general consumer who's interested in fashion but hasn't had a particular lingerie bent is really, really low. So, I mean, a brand that's 50 years old might be completely new to them because they just have no idea what's going on. So I write about brands that are new, that are old, just stuff that I think will appeal to my readers because they just don't know that much about it most of the time.
I think a lot of my readers do come to my blog to see what's new, especially my readers who've been following my site for several years now. They're coming because they know that I look for brands that no one's talking about, that no one's selling yet. And so they come to the site to discover those new names.
I would say, I mean, that's a big part of my site. I get a lot of people looking, I'll get, particularly if I write about a new product from a brand or a new brand in the market, I'll get a lot of feedback from the brand that they got calls. But I'm a B2B, I'm in the market all the time, not just at the shows. It's a different kind of readership, so probably my readers know more about the intricacies of the products than other people do.
Well, I thought Roz brought up a good point. She was talking about how subjective all this is. And you said these are all from your points of view, part of the tribe. And you also encourage brands to get out there and blogs here. But if a brand is made up of 10 or 10,000 people, how does that brand find its voice?
But you must have a mission. It's your thought, it's your intelligence, it's what you have to blog from the brand mission.
Most of the brands have multiple sizes and multiple products. And it's not coming from one voice. There are different divisions like Razor.
So you might have to have different parts of the site.
Well, I mean, there are lots of books out there on like building blog strategies as a business, building social media strategies as a brand. I mean, if you decide to venture into social media as a brand, you really have to sit down and figure out who you're talking to, why you're talking to them, what they're going to get out of your blog, what they're going to get out of your social profiles, why you want to be in the social space, because it can't just be that you want to use the internet like a megaphone to just say, buy from me, buy from me, buy from me all the time. But it has to be figuring out what do I have to say that's new and interesting and dynamic that's going to get people interested in what my brand is doing.
I think that there's a big difference between what a brand of 10 people and a brand of 10,000 people can say. And a lot of times, if you're big, what you have going for you is experience and expertise. And what people are going to come to you for is, they're not going to come to you for only talking about a 34B because they know that you do more and that you know more. And if you are someone who's established and you know what you're talking about, and that's why you've succeeded and that's why you're so big, then people will trust you and people will know that what you're saying comes from experience, it comes from what you know, and it comes from what you really want to put out there and that you believe in your product. I mean, what happens with the 10-person brand is completely different. I wouldn't say that you should necessarily go out there if you're a 10-person brand and say, we know all there is to know, because you're going to get some problems there. But you can go out there and say, we're learning and we're doing new things, and, here's our tiny office, and here's our fun staff, and this is us on drinks on the weekend. Because for a 10,000-person company, that doesn't really make sense. Your voice depends on what your business goals are, it depends on how big your company is, and it depends what your point of view is. And that comes from the company. That doesn't come from one person.
I think blogging has to be part of your overall marketing strategy, and it's part of the conversation you have with the consumer. I think, we were just talking about one particular brand that came out with a YouTube video that we all went, ugh. Yeah, I mean, just, why did they do that? What were they thinking? Who are they talking to? And why did they even get that idea? So I think it's that communication and, talking to other people and knowing who your consumer is and making them part of a bigger marketing. I mean, I'm a one-person brand. That's who I am. And I'm out there blogging and talking to lots of people all the time and having conversations and learning more all the time. I learn from reading their blogs, I learn from reading other blogs, and it's not just news and information, but it's a conversation, it's a back and forth. It's not just me telling them, oh, guess what, I know all about, double mastectomies. I have to be talking to people and having conversations with them on a daily basis.
Anybody? Yeah?
Different direction, but in terms of the technical aspects of blogging, do you guys do that stuff yourself? Have you brought in other people to help you? Do you know coding? How did that evolve?
Well, I've done my website 4 times now. So I've invested a lot in my website and different platforms, and I found out what didn't work. I've actually worked with Cora. She's helped me on a number of things. I find the most important thing for me has been SEO, search engine optimization, and using analytics, finding out who my reader is, what they're searching for, which of my blogs are the most popular, and why people are going to them. And that really helps me. And it's better that I do it myself, at least at this point, because then I have kind of my finger on my reader, and that's where I need to be at this moment. But yeah, I do most of it myself. I mean, I didn't build my websites, but I have learned by trial and error.
Up until this point, I've done everything myself. I don't do HTML, but I really need to get on that. But I use templates and I customize them, and I use WordPress.org, and I mean, there's so much you can do with free tools. If you just don't have the time and the budget and the focus to hire someone who will do a professional job for you, there's really a lot you can do on your own if you go for it.
I started off using Blogspot, just the free out-of-the-box service, and then I did a big redesign a few years ago. I hired someone for that because it was beyond what I knew in terms of basic coding. And then I've recently done another big rebrand, and I hired someone for that too. But any kind of basic day-to-day tweaks and functionality, that all comes from me. So does that answer it? Yeah. Okay.
Obviously, you have your advertising side and you have your editorial side. Do you ever work with collaboration between retailers and brands?
Collaboration, how?
Yeah.
Like what Ellen has with her guest postings or her little featurettes like that.
I do. I mean, brands can come and guest post on the Lingerie Addict. They have to stick to the same guest posting policies that everyone else has. We don't accept guest posts that are really just 500-page ads. They really need to be something that answers a question and provides useful information to our readers. But I mean, we have several guest blog posts from boutiques and brands. Yeah.
Right now, I don't really have any guest posts just because I'm the only one managing it, and it's really, really hard to work with other people. I've had like 2, but it's something that I might be open to in the future.
I've had guest posts, and I actually encourage them, but they've been, like all over the place. I had, lounge photographers talking about lingerie for photography sites, and then I've had people who've had, cancer issues and breast reconstruction that have come on and told their story. So they've run the gamut.
I mean, for me, it's a different situation because of my knowledge of the retail world in the intimate apparel market and my knowledge of the branded world. So it's a little easier. But still, I've had a lot of guest bloggers that I've had to sort of throw by the wayside. They either don't write well, or the editing process is so tedious it's not worth my energy, and they're not really on topic. They're moving away from my brand. So it takes time, really, to figure out what those cooperative efforts are going to be.
When you come to New York for the shows like Curve, what is your game plan? Like, what do you sit down and process? Who am I going to go to first? What am I looking for? What's your game plan when you enter the Curve?
I'm looking for brands that I think are going to be new and exciting and that my readers want to hear of. I mean, I have my favorites that I always like to visit and talk about, but the thing I'm most looking for are the new designers that are maybe under the radar, that won't get picked up, by a boutique just yet, or that nobody's really talking about just yet, to give my readers kind of the first access to the inside scoop on who to look for.
Yeah, I definitely go around and try and see new people because I know that I'm not going to get that information anywhere else. I mean, except for Cora, obviously. But I also like to go see some of the favorites of me and favorites of my readers just because I know that they are really hungry for information. I've especially made an effort recently to go see full bust brands because I know that I'm not going to be able to share that information if I don't go see them and go hear what they have to say, because I'm not going into a store and I don't have the expertise, but I know if I go and I speak to them and I hear what they have to say, then if a reader comes to me with a question, then I'm going to be able to say, this is exactly what you're looking for, and I really want to be able to do that.
I try to do a mix of both new brands, just because I'm interested in seeing what's new out there, especially if it's something that hasn't been done before, or if they're claiming to fill some kind of niche in the market. I want to see that. I also have my favorite brands that I like to go and talk to and see what's new for the season, so I can just see what else is coming up. I think what interests me the most in coming to the show is just to get an overall sense of what I can bring back to my reader in taking a look at it, because most of them, we were talking about what people don't know. A lot of my readers will write to me and not know that, bras go beyond double D, which is amazing to me. So it gives me a chance to say, oh, there's this many full bust products at the show. I can go back and talk about that. So sort of like the, overall big picture of what's happening there. And I sort of like the stories behind the designers, how people come up with their lines and innovative new things. I mean, one new brand came out with a maternity sports bra that was really interesting to me, and I'm really excited about going back and blogging about that. So, yeah.
Probably should wrap up.
Yes.
So,
Sorry.
but thank you very much.